Hey, y'all. Welcome to the Liberty Podcast, where the power of story, the force of social change. I'm your Taylor Simon. And in this podcast, we believe in the profound impact of stories. And I'm super excited to be here with my friend Charity. I'm really excited because we're going to be talking about her debut novel. And I'm just excited because I got to see it from a seed and grow, and now it's out into the world. So, hi, Charity. How are you doing today?
Hello. I'm super excited to be here with you. And I'll have to say, you were the second person that I told and confided in that I was writing this and seeked out your guidance. And you really were a big inspiration for me to like kind of move forward in this whole process. So I'm so happy to be talking to you about it. And it's over.
Yeah. Yes, and I'm so excited. We're going to be talking about romance today, but can you kick us off with our discussion today to talk a little bit about yourself and your journey to becoming an author?
Yeah. So I'm originally from Massachusetts and I grew up in a suburb of Boston. Lived a majority of my adult life living and working in the city of Boston. I have my education is all from UMass Boston and then my master's at a liberal arts school, Lesley University in Cambridge, Mass. So real big Northeast girl, but I have made my way down south and I am really loving Columbia in the area. I've had a lot of journeys in my life, and that's what a lot of the journeys are in my book. But how I became, working as becoming an author, I had to really think about this because I guess I've always had a journal in my purse, right? I always had a book and a journal in my purse, in my book bag. On the subway, I'd be writing my thoughts down, and I just always liked to write out things. But when I was younger, I'm dyslexic, so I was very discouraged against writing, and then at times was shamed, especially in my generation where we didn't have spell check and stuff. I was shamed for saying I was a bad writer or because I didn't spell well and because I would mix up words and stuff like that. So I really just felt like I wasn't a good writer. But of course, technology comes along. So I've been able to journal and put things on computer and spell check and everything. And now I've been really working more on my confidence in my writing. My master's program, I had to write a lot. And so, I had a big thesis I had to write. So I got really used to, even though that was very structured and had to be all the formatting correct and everything like that, I got really more confident in how to write and how to put the words from my head onto paper and everything. And that's kind of how my journey up to being able to now tell the fun stories that I have in my head and all of the different journals that I have. I go through and I went through for this book. And one of the feedbacks that you gave me was to find little stories. And I went through some journals and I was like, oh my gosh, and like put those into the book and everything. So yeah, they come, that's kind of where how I got to become an author.
Definitely, if you are a writer out there, your journal, you never know what is going to become a book in the future. So definitely keeping a journal is super important. I know I kept a journal and got a lot of my poetry for my first book phases from my journal. So I love that you incorporate that. It kind of reminds me of Princess Diaries. Used to love that series in high school. So let's talk about your debut book, Making It Over the Tobin Bridge. Well, first, why did you name the book what you named it? And what was the inspiration? And what do you hope readers will get from the story?
Yeah. So the Tobin Bridge is the big bridge that people from the north of Boston have to go over. Not there's maybe another route, but it's basically the most route to get into the city of Boston. So having, especially in college and everything, I drove over that bridge maybe 4 times a day sometimes. And as I was writing the book, I was explaining the name of it, and there's a funny story to why I named it, but then I realized when I was talking to someone, they're like, "Oh, is it, like, symbolic that you, like, made it over the bridge into the big city?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I wasn't even thinking about that." That Yes, it's very symbolic of one of my characters making it over the bridge finally, but for the story, there's a difference between North Shore and South Shore of Boston. It's like the suburbs north of Boston and the suburbs south of Boston. And when I was on campus in college, right in Boston, someone said to me, "Oh, that girl's from the South Shore." And I was like, "How can you tell?" And they're like, "I could tell the difference between a North Shore girl and a South Shore girl." I was like, "Could you tell I was a North Shore girl?" And he's like, "I'm surprised you made it over the Tobin Bridge." And so that's why I really named it from that, him telling me that, and but then I realized how symbolic it was too about the character, the arc of the one of my characters making it over the bridge.
Mhm. And it's a romance,
Yeah.
and, people I feel like romance often gets a bad rap. "Oh, it's just light fluff reading," and, yes, escapist reading is important, but people are like, "Well, people only read romance to escape, and that's not academic or
Mhm.
intellectual," and I feel similarly about that statement as I do to audiobooks isn't really reading. I'm just like,
Right.
no, we learn things from all types of stories. So I want to ask your opinion about, do you think romance can be revolutionary in a sense, even if it's subversively?
Yes, when thinking about that question, I thought my first thing is like, romance is so powerful. I think it drives us in society, and one of the things I really took with this book was that opposite of how like society going against the societal norm of what romance is about. And one of my characters, kind of goes against what society is telling us to do, right? I feel like I now I'm in my, early 50s. I was told at a young age about this. If you do this, you find a partner, you go and live happily ever after. And I am seeing so many of my friends who follow that trajectory and we're like, are we? And so I think, yeah, especially when it comes to this genre, I was reading books that are contemporary romance and I was like, I don't resonate with this anymore. I've gone to too much stuff in my life that this lot for whatever doesn't resonate. And I really wanted to write something that has those ups and downs of love and romance and maybe not the normal ending, happily ever after ending, but it is happily ever after, but just not the way we've been pushed or what romance should be like. And that's where I feel like I kind of was a little revolutionary with romance in this genre. But there's love in there. There's a lot of love and a lot of searching for love.
And what I really like about making it over the Tobin Bridge is not just romantic love. It's a lot about self-love and self-empowerment too, and I think that message is really important to share with women because it goes against that counter narrative saying about, um, women are just they're stressed that need to be saved and save themselves. Relationships to enhance our lives rather than someone to be financially dependent on. And so I definitely think your story really pushes that narrative of like
Mhm.
you should be wanting to fall in love with yourself as well. And that's super important.
Thank you for saying that because, yeah, that was definitely one of my things I want readers to take away with. And on that, what you were saying too about I had one reader feedback was she said, platonic love is real. And that's what I got from your book. Like it is real. And I'm like, yes, my friendships and my girlfriends and even my guy friends, I have like the most love is from those people, like my platonic people in my life.
Yes, all types of relationships are important and all of them to be celebrated, not just romantic. So yes,
Yes.
yes, and that was, like, one of the feedback I had. I was like, "I love how you talk about the friendships as well." So, yes, definitely. And so, I know you are newly an author as of this year when the book came out, or last year when the book came out. What keeps you grounded in this work as an author?
Reading more, like, I feel like I've been reading so much more since I have published my book. I've always been a big reader, but I don't know what it I feel like now I just wanna read so much to get not even ideas of stories, because I have the stories, but of way of telling my stories and, the way of the voices or descriptions of things and stuff. So that really is kind of I mean, there's so many books out there. So I know my book is just like, I say a needle in a haystack type of thing. So that keeps me grounded. Also, I know I'm not getting famous. I know my book isn't gonna get a movie adaptation or anything like that. So having those realistic expectations of like, I am writing these stories because they're in my head. I think they can be meaningful to other people. And I just want to put them out there for that. And, that keeps me really grounded in my stories.
How can you use your story to make connections with other people
Mhm.
who've gone through the same? So I love that so much. And now I got to ask, which one of your stories will be next? Do you want to talk about any upcoming projects that
Yes, I just want to follow up with that though. Like over the years, I've done a lot of counseling work and stuff, and I have learned people always feel like they're the only ones who have gone through things. And as a counselor, you hear so many stories, you're like so many people go through the same thing. And that's one of the things I really want to put in my books as well, is that there's so many of us out there going through the same things. We're just not realizing it. We're not talking about it. And so I really want to like have those themes of what people are going through in my story. So my next story is a continuation of one of my characters that made it over the Tobin Bridge. And I don't want to give too much away because then it would give away the ending of but I really fell in love with this character and I wanted to explore what happens to her now that she's made it over the Tobin Bridge and is starting her life in a new chapter. So
you
I got the beginning and the end, and I'm working on the middle. And something about making it over the Tobin Bridge is I forgot to mention is parallel storylines. And so this time, because I love a what ifs or what could have been. I love that kind of theme, and I love the movie Sliding Doors and a book that I love, Midnight Library, where they time hopped and did all these what ifs. So this book is going to be go back in time. So the main character is, all settled in a new life, but then is going to time travel to figure out kind of what she wants to do with the next chapter of her life. So that's the fun. I actually was going through photos of me in the 90s last night to get some ideas of like because
saw
she's
your
going back.
post.
Yes, she's going back to 1993. So I'm going through and figuring out like, all right, what was this like and what was the scenery like? So going through old pictures and stuff like that and outfits and I Googled, like, what kinda shows were on, because she turns on the TV and stuff like that, so that's been super fun to start to bring to the pages as well, so I'm excited for that.
Oh, we're excited. Do you have a name yet, or you're waiting for it to come to you?
No, it came to me before, like, it's called Wolf Eyes. So it's dual meaning. There's a character whose eyes are like blue, like the, wolf eyes. But then there's another character who might have some wolf eyes, like, a wolf in a sheep.
Awooga.
Well, a wolf in a sheep's clothing. Is that the
Mm,
same?
yes. Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah. So I'm really excited for that. So same character. Well, sort of same character.
We are excited for that too. And at the end of our discussion, I'll make sure Charity shares where you can keep up with all the updates and
Mhm.
get the first book, Making Over the Tobin Bridge,
Yeah.
before the next project comes out. But first, I want to ask you, what have you been reading lately that's been giving you inspiration for this project or gave you inspiration for making over the Tobin Bridge?
Yeah. So, it's recently I have been in, which I never really used to be a reader of, as period pieces. So, and you mentioned about like people say listening to books isn't really reading. Well, I listen and I'm reading a book. So I think I'm taking in all of the information. So I am listening to called The Unselected Journals of Emma and Lion by Beth Bauer. And it's about this, it's 1850s, and it's about this woman who kind of independent spins, but she's only 21. But back then, you're not married by 21. You're a spinster. And her life in the community and how she builds these relationships and friendships with certain people in her community. So it's interesting how this author has done this book is she has made there's 6 volumes of the book, but they're all the same. Like I think it's each year, like every book is a few months. It's all done by journal entries of the main character. So but in 6, or actually I think it's 8 books. So it's really interesting. And then the other book that I'm reading is a continuation of this book I found. It's called Olivia and Ja. And it's based in like early, I want to say early 1800s in India, when as the English were colonizing India. And now the book I'm reading now, The Veil of Illusion, is about 15 years after the first book finished. Their children are grown now. It's by Rebecca Ryman, and it's a doozy. Each one is 644 pages. So it's like a brick. I can't lie in bed very comfortably and read it. It's so heavy. But both of them, both the unselected journals of Emma M. Lyon and this book are about strong, independent women. And maybe that is why if they really resonate with me, especially looking at the women in the times and how of their lives and how they go against the norms of society and are able to build a beautiful lives for themselves, being independent.
We love a good feminist text.
Yeah, absolutely.
So my last question for you is what advice would you offer listeners who want to make a positive impact in their community?
Absolutely. First and foremost, be empathetic to everyone. Like I said, everyone has gone through something, done is got something going on, and everyone has some type of struggle in their life. And so I want to just say I commend you so much and how Taylor, how much you speak up in the community. Like I'm fearful of how I can speak up, but I love that you have that courage to do so. So it's like, if you have the courage to do so, do it. Me personally, like the ways I've kind of been able to be a positive impact, I think one of the best things I did was I did Big Sister, Little Sister in Greater Boston. And I was a big sister for about 4 or 5 years with a young girl. And I feel like even though it was one on one with her, she was bringing it back to her friends, back to her family, like that trickle effect. Or like just volunteering in the community. If there's something that you're passionate about, time is the best thing that you can do to bring a positive impact into your community. So if you're scared of speaking up like I am, I didn't say scared. I guess I am scared of it. I try to do those, and I guess I'm an introvert really too. So the one on ones are much better, more my comfort zone and stuff like that. But yeah, and I fortunately work in human services, so for, like, the last 15 years, and I've seen what goes a long way is kindness, friendliness. It just goes a long way. Yeah.
Yeah, and as far as, like, me speaking up, it helps that I am my own employer, so I'm not gonna fire myself for
Yes. Yes.
having my opinions, so
Yes.
that is and that's why I do what I do and show up because it's really hard to really be involved in the political process, and that's by design, like, a lot of these meetings are during the workday and have to take time and find and all of that. So I do what I can because I have the space and flexibility to. So I know everybody can't do it, but we're all in this together. We find our
Yeah.
way where we can. So and
Yes.
we
Well, thank you for being able to, get out there and stand in those long lines to get in there and do those testimonies and yeah, thank you.
yes. So thank you so much for this great conversation, Charity. Where can people keep up with you or find you on this internet?
Yeah, so I have an Instagram account. I don't know, it's Charity Collier Author, I believe that's the right handle. But you can put in Charity Collier author, and it'll show up for me on Instagram. And then to buy my book, you got a couple copies. So if anyone is out there, whenever you're out with Soda City or whatever the other places that you are, there's a couple of copies there. And then wherever you can buy books online, you can order my book and get a copy.
Make sure to put the link and all those places where you can get the book as well as your Instagram.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Charity, for
Thank
being a
you.
part of the podcast. And thank you, listeners. If you have any stories you want to share, want to suggest any topics, or just want to, you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at Liberation, or you can visit our website, liberationislit.com. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving a review. And remember, your voice matters. And together, through the lens of stories, we're going to make a difference in the world. Until next time.